20 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. We are going into a moving conversation, Trinidad and Tobago and the world, of course, watching on the live stream. Reborn, the exhibition and beyond. We have with us in studio this morning Harande Elie, artist, and Dale Ramirez, curator and owner of LOFTT Gallery. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome, both of you, to the Now Morning Show. Now, viewers, you can see these fabulous pieces of work, and we are going to be getting into each of them individually this morning because, trust me, there is so much depth physically and, of course, spiritually to these wonderful pieces. So let's start with you, Harande. Good morning. Again,
good morning. Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's just talk about your work in general and what inspires you.
Well, first, if I could do a bit of housekeeping and say, well, good morning to the viewing public. But in particular this morning, I just wanted to say a happy Veterans Day to all of the military families around the world, especially as my dad is a retired military man as well. Just want to pay homage to those guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, yeah, tell us about what inspires you to, what moves you to do these wonderful pieces of work.
Trying to find truth within myself. Art is something that came naturally to me from a young age. I was first introduced to art and theatre, basically at St. Mary's College, but football eventually sort of took a front seat, and you know. But it wasn't until years later, and specifically throughout the pandemic, where I sort of tapped back into that. And these are some of the even to myself, surprising outcomes of that introspection, so to speak.
I love the fact that you said surprising, because, I mean, just looking at these right now, Dale, I can only imagine how you felt when you saw these pieces. What was the exhibition like, Dale?
Well, the Reborn exhibit had 63 artists.
Okay.
Harande was one of them. And the show was just, it was more along the lines of getting the artists back into the gallery after 2.5 years. The gallery itself had closed down completely. We had lost the premises. But because art is so important, and because it's my passion as well, at least to create the platforms. People ask me, are you an artist? I said, I guess my canvas is the bricks and mortar of the space. And guys like Harande, they create the actual canvas with a frame. But the exhibit was successful because we got 63 artists, 140 pieces of art, and I guess about 20% sold. And that's one of the driving forces of the gallery as well, like to bridge the commercial viability of the work with a buyer. You know, so sometimes people are intimidated to get into a gallery space. Loft has always been, like, it has an open door policy pretty much. There's just the perception that Loft is a very relaxed but well organized art gallery.
Well, it definitely, from what you're sharing with us right now, it was very well executed as well. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And hopefully as we go through this interview, we can learn a bit more.
Sure.
But for now, Harande, we need to come to you. And if we can just touch on what it was like being in the Reborn exhibition.
I think it was a welcomed opportunity, not just for myself, but artists within the local industry to be able to come back out and exhibit and get some work done, and the economy, I guess, sort of moving again. The professionalism at the gallery, I think, was second to none. I think the environment really lends to that artistic vibe. And for me in particular, even though there are some specific mentors that I have, Peter Doig being one, Nigel Joseph being one, my vibe with art is more artistry in general, because I express myself via photography, music, a number of different things. So coming from a performing arts background, not on stage, but more in a background where formerly operations manager at the International Soca Monarch, I've been around artistry and art for a long time in many different forms. And me now tapping into, I guess, my specific customized expression, this is, you know, more or less what came to the forefront. I think apart from excellent supporters like Dale, there are a couple communities that you find that support. I think anims for me in particular, I find a number of my materials and whatnot there and support for different projects. So, you know, them supporting local artists, it makes a big difference. Just last night, we were hanging at District and Shay passed by and we probably spent maybe about 45 minutes talking about a particular piece that he brought in terms of the process and whatnot. And for me in particular, being newer on the local art scene and for someone like him, being as seasoned and well-known as he is, accepted and given that vibe. I think that's what the space offers, that kind of energy and whatnot, you know.
And it's so important to provide that safe space so that everybody is able to actually come together and just get into alignment and produce amazing works like these. So, yeah. Harande, let's jump into your pieces. I mean, by all means, you choose where you would like to start and share with us what inspired you and what messages you are evoking from these.
I think not being traditionally trained, my art flows from emotion and experiences. My inner circle, I have a very tight-knit inner circle. My family is, I think, my parents, my wife of 23 years, 24 in May next year. My manager, Nigel Roberts, out in Michigan, and a couple other close friends, sharing intimate experiences with them. I think, and some of their stories, some of my stories is basically what you're seeing on canvas. Again, being interactive with different mediums, spoken word is actually one of them. So this first piece actually came out from a poem between the narrator and Cupid, actually being in a bar and seeing this young lady, two eyes made four. But he's still second-guessing himself, whether she's looking at me or kind of looking past me kind of vibe. And it's about that moment of endearment, kind of putting your fear and anxieties, not just in romance, but in general. I think fear and anxiety is something that holds a lot of people back. So
definitely. This
is actually called Fortune Favors the Bold, per se. This second piece here basically is called Make It. I think in life generally, you have two decisions. You either make it or fail. And this couple here is on their journey to make it to their metaphoric Zion, leaving what you see in the background as another metaphoric Babylon with flames and whatnot. Once you leave a toxic environment, it's a rocky road, which is displayed there. And they're leaving that behind, so they're moving in unison towards their happy place, if you want to call it that, their mental balance. But most times when you are in turmoil, the forces don't have a lot of work to do with you. They kind of leave you alone to be. But when you take that mental shift, I think that's where the metaphoric serpent comes into play. And we, as we say in local parlance, try to tie you up, which is what is being displayed there. But they experiencing that and fighting through those elements, as you can see, even losing limbs, still swinging for their liberty, so to speak. So that's pretty much what that expresses there.
And something that really pops out with this piece in particular is your incorporation of other elements into your art.
Yeah.
Seeing some coral, some stones, we're seeing swords, and it just, you really have brought everything together along with your messages.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had an art critic a couple of years ago, fortunately by Peter Doig, a renowned world artist, and he actually said to me that the elements that I bring in my painting is really unusual, and they have what he considers soul. And even though he is internationally well-traveled in terms of exhibitions and whatnot, among a lot of successful artists, he says soul is something that you hardly find, so that I should run with it. So I just want to say hats off to Peter. I think he's based out in England right now for that bit of cheering on, so to speak. You know.
Yeah, definitely lots of soul here. Now there's a lot of soul in this one as well.
Yes, this one is called Reminiscent Future. It's another abstract expression of someone working through mental illness, so to speak, sort of enslaved by allowing their mind to dictate their thoughts. Most times we think that our minds are us, but it's not. We are actually what just behind that, something I like to call the second bird theory. Kind of, if you quiet yourself enough, you breathe and center yourself enough, you will actually be able to recognize that there's a distance between yourself and your mind. And this basically is someone putting themselves in what would be a metaphoric imprisoned situation because of their inability to conquer their own mind. You know, so it's him being there, sort of reminiscing on his family in terms of what was and trying to work his way back to this reality.
So moving, and again, we see the incorporation of the other elements. We see seashells, we see some Mother Nature here, some twigs as well. And I'm sure everything, of course, will have a meaning.
Yeah, I think when I was going through this process, there was a community of artists that was around me, and a lot of them were using airbrush, which is pretty nice, but I wanted to be different. And I just found my style with a tapestry that you could actually touch and kind of feel a different vibe. And so far, the response it has been pretty good.
Definitely, because it's a sensory experience as well. That tactile.
It is. There's something about 3D that really moves me, and it sort of helps me express what's in here a lot better.
Wonderful. And now talking about expressing what's in your mind, with this piece, I know we were able to touch on it just a little bit offset before you came on, but I mean, this blew my mind from the moment that I walked in. Please share with us a bit more about it.
And it's so funny. It's a bit more simplistic than some of the others, but I think the depth in it speaks to folks at a deeper level that resonates something. For me, it's an expression of my Rastafarian appreciation mixed in with Egyptian mythology. And there are a couple elements here, particularly smelling salts that's in the vials, is a sort of a wake-up call, because even from my experiences, from our university experience, from high school experience at St. Mary's, you learn about our history from emancipation come forward. We really don't take time to go back to see who we were before slavery, what we did for the world through maths and science, the pyramids, a number of different things. Apart from that, if you notice in most of my paintings, there is a strong female element. I like to position myself more as a feminist. So in this one in particular, Isis, I think if this encourages anything, just Google Isis and see what her story was between herself, her son, her husband, and it's an odyssey that's pretty long, but if you really go into the depths of it with the battles between Horus and Seth and what she had to go through for her family, I think she was the real backbone of those alpha masculine figures. And mythology, in essence, a lot of people take it as whimsical, but if you really tap into what mythology is, there's a lot more truth in it.
Yeah.
Historically, which is a whole next topic that we could do on another time. But I hope folks can kind of see themselves in this. Hence, if you look at the center of it, you will actually see your own reflection in the mirror. That's dead center of the Brazilian nut that's fused dead center.
Wonderful. So much depth and so much meaning. I wish we had more time to be able to go into each piece further. As we see, there's so much more to it, and there's so much more to connect with as a viewer. So viewers, make sure that you follow both of these gentlemen so you can get a lot more information and know when you have upcoming events, which brings me back to you, Dale.
Yes.
Do we have anything coming up?
Yeah, the gallery has a solo exhibit by Brian Ashing, who's an up-and-coming artist. He's a portrait artist, and he's noted as one of the strongest, as I think he's a 28-year-old portrait artist. He's had his first solo at 101 Gallery about a year ago, I think, and with a lot of success. So we're happy to have him. He's actually part of the gallery as well. He's a director and curator there at LOFTT as well. So that's on the 19th of November. And so we're looking forward to that one. And we have probably a couple more things in store before the end of the year.
Okay.
Because the gallery just has to keep its doors open, because there's, like I said, there were 63 artists that came out to that show over a 2-week period. So there is no shortage of art and storytelling like Harande is outside. And we're just that platform. Like many others, like Arnims and Softbox Studio, Y Gallery, within Port of Spain, especially within Woodbrook, there is this concentration of art galleries. If anyone were to drive around and start counting, you'd realize how many art galleries there are. So the galleries are really stepping it up in terms of representing that element of our culture, which is that creative element. So I'm just happy to be back, because it was it was kind of a sad story initially when we lost the space, but then this year I jumped back in because I thought it was extremely important. So the 19th of November would be the next exhibition.
Beautiful. So we're witnessing a lot of rebirth going on here.
Yeah, and hence the reason for REBORN. The whole idea of REBORN was that it was work that artists had done during the lockdown, and I'm sure many of us, while we had a lot of loss, each of us would have experienced tremendous loss, either from a business point of view or, from life and limb. Families would have been broken up. We would have lost family members, like I did as well. But the recovery is always important, and the rebirth is important. So that was an easy way for us to step back into the fray.
And we appreciate the fact that you are bringing this to us as an offering as a society, because there is always room for art. There is always room for growth. Dale, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Harande, thank you for being with us this morning as well. Trinidad and Tobago, this is the Now Morning Show. You just heard from Dale. There is so much to do in Trinidad. Go out, check out your art galleries, and make sure that you go to the Loft on the 19th. We'll be back with more on the Now Morning Show. It's almost time for food. Stay tuned.